Let's get it.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jason with J2 Deer and Hog Attractant and One Mission Outdoors. So we get a lot of questions all the time on how we hunt and how we hunt over attractants. A lot of people think you can just go out and go throw it out and deer are gonna show up and start running out of it everywhere. Just because you bait doesn't mean that they're gonna come running. And it doesn't mean you're gonna shoot them in the daylight either. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we do. We still scout, we still go out, we find optimal areas, find bedding areas, transition zones, spots where the deer travel. You know, you're not gonna kill deer if the deer don't travel there. J2's got some pool power, and I've seen it do some amazing things. But you still gotta hunt smart. You still gotta use all your skills. So I want to show you a little bit of what I look for, how I use it. And that way, every time I go out, I know that I'm gonna have the optimal opportunity to harvest a nice mature animal. You know, I don't know if people hunt the moon or weather phases or anything like that, but I know I do, and I know it's produced big. And when you got a nasty cold front, and you know, cold front doesn't have to be a drastic change in temperature, but hey, check that out. Oh, we got hogs in this area too, so. But anyway, I'm gonna give you guys some tips and tricks, show you what I look for, show you how I utilize J2 Deer and Hog Attractant, and we hope to give you guys as much information as we can. We appreciate everybody following along. You know, most of us are all retired military or active duty military still. We hunt a lot of public ground. We hunt a lot of military installations. And we got to use every chance to its fullest when we get out there in the woods. Take it as you will. But if baiting is legal in your area, I would definitely recommend J2 Deer and Hog Attractant Berry Blend and Hog Hammer if you got hogs in the area. So, but again, follow along, stay tuned. I'll give you some tips and tricks on what I do and how I do things. Well, I'm walking a new piece of ground, trying to find a nice little pinch point and funnel. It's everything I look for, even when using an attractant. You know, everybody thinks that you can use an attractant and just throw it out and they're gonna come. You're gonna have deer all over the place. Some places that might be the case, but most places it's not. So what I look for is pinch points, funnels, transition zones, what we call hard edges. As you can see, so I got some cottonwoods and I'm right off a field edge, and you come inside and there's a bunch of horse apple trees, and it runs up into another little open field here where it's basically all Johnson grass and switchgrass and CRP. But I'll come into these main corridors, kind of skirt the bedding areas. When I find a decent bedding area, I'll get off to the side and find the transition zones and their main travel routes. Once I find a main travel route, I'll go ahead and make sure that I got good wind. I always hunt the coldest, nastiest days that I can. So I'm always trying to hunt a north wind. Down here in Texas, we predominantly have a southwest wind, southeast wind. But when we get our first fronts that come through, we get a hard northwest wind most of the time. So when I come into an area, I'll try to find a avenue of approach to where I can come in downwind of the north wind side. That way I'm not blowing stuff out of the area when I come into it. But again, this opens up into a little grass field, and as you can see, there's the wood line. Got some oaks, got some Texas ash, got some pecan trees. There's some old rubs. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep walking down a little bit farther. I think there's a bedding area up here to the northwest of me a little bit. So I'm gonna ease up here and see what I can find. And once I find an area, I'll come back on and show you what I found and show you how I set up, how I use my attractants and what I do. See, that's what I'm talking about a hard edge or a transition zone. You can see you got the timber there and it comes out into the grass field. There's a bunch of trails coming in. There's a bedding area to the southwest. There's a bunch of trails coming out. And what they're doing, they're walking this transition zone. Over here, it's all hardwoods. And then on the opposite side, there's an ag field. And then up on the northwest side up here, there's another bedding area. So it should be a nice transition funnel pinch point between both of these bedding areas going to the ag field. And then down directly to the south is the lake. So nothing will be able to come out from behind me. So if we keep walking this transition line, I'm sure I'll find some more rubs and scrapes. Once I start getting into some fresher stuff and I find another major intersection between these two bedding areas, that's where I'm gonna set my drop zone. Major trail right here. Scrape, old scrape. Once you start finding a lot more sign and you find a lot of the major intersections, then that's when you want to set up your drop zone. Right off the edge of a hard trail where you got a couple intersecting trails, just like you would hunt any other time. All you're doing is you're hunting the edges of the bedding areas on their main transition zones, and you're pulling them out of their bed. A lot of people think bucks are nocturnal. You know, they say, oh, hard pressured bucks are nocturnal. But over the last couple of years, we found out they're not nocturnal. We pull them all the time. But when they're pressured, they still got to feed 4 or 5 times a day. So if you're setting up right on the edge of their bedding areas, on their transition zones where they get up and they walk around and stretch their legs, you're gonna pull that buck. He's gonna come to your drop zone. And you're gonna have about a lot better chance of getting a daylight shot. All right, I'm kind of winded. Been walking around for a little bit. But I think I finally found the spot that I want. As you can see, that's the bedding area that I was talking about. The southwest bedding area. You got some open hardwoods and the field edges out there. Well, we got a couple main trails that come through here. And I followed this main trail and they're hitting it pretty good. I mean, we've had some rain over the last couple of days, but so I followed this all the way out till it hit that pinch point to where the cove was at. And just like I thought, where the cove came up and the open hardwoods gave that transition zone, right on the edge of that little funnel, or where the cove was at. It created a funnel. So we got a couple lanes where they're coming in and out. And like I said, I always try to follow the edges. You get those hard edges, you find the transition zones, the hard edges, the funnels, and the pinch points between bedding areas. You put a drop zone down, and you increase your chances of getting a daylight shot 100 times over. I've never been big on using attractants before. About 5 years ago, I was actually kind of against it, but they're all pretty much gimmicks. Everything I've used works for a couple days, works for a couple weeks, but it doesn't consistently keep the bucks coming back on a pattern. But with the J2 berry blend, my opinion changed a lot. This is a new piece of public ground I found. I've never been out here. I came out to set a camera, drop some J2, and see what happens. But you can see where it comes out into this opening. So you got a transition lane coming in there, you got a transition lane coming in here. You got all this open field edge. You got a bedding area, open field edge, ag field that way. Another bedding area. And then you got a cove that comes up and pinches everything off. So this is a major pinch point. So what I'm gonna do is set my drop zone here and kind of combine everything together. You know, you got to use everything to your advantage. We only get so many days to hunt a year. You know, I work a full-time job. This is a hobby. I don't do it for a living. I wish I could, maybe someday. But I come out here as much as possible. I try to give myself the most optimal opportunities that I can. So that's why I said most of the time I hunt, you know, optimal winds, optimal cold fronts or weather fronts. And it doesn't have to be a serious cold front. You can have a 10-degree shift. And you need to make sure you're in the stand, because if you're in the right area and you're close to a buck's bedding area, he's gonna get up. He's gonna move around. Even if you think they're nocturnal, they're not. They're up and moving around 100 to 300 yards from their bedding area, which is their core area. That's where they live. They don't go anywhere else. When they're high pressured, they bed down. As long as they have water, they have thick cover, they have major escape routes, they don't need to go anywhere else. So, you know, everybody says, oh, all my bucks went nocturnal. And it ain't that they went nocturnal. The problem is you're just not hunting their core area. You're not close enough to their bedding area to see them when they get up and they move around during the daytime. Like I said, I like using everything to my advantage. I only have, you know, you get a couple shots a year, and you want to make sure that when you go out, you've got that optimal opportunity to harvest a decent animal. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this J2 drop zone set out, get a camera on it, and we'll see what happens. So I have all my major trails coming together. I'm gonna get up in that tree right there. That way where my bedding areas are at, my north wind and south wind blows, you know, it blows that way, bedding areas over there, but it'll blow that way back off the pond. And then the south will blow basically directly back the opposite way, bedding areas over there. So even if they skirt around me, 25 foot up, I should be good. You got your east-west running this way, north-south running this way. You got to scrape. Your bucks are going to be traveling in and out. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find an area where they're not really coming out of, that's pretty thick, but right towards the edge of cover. You know, a lot of people would feed right out in the middle of the open. But what I'll do is I'll come right over to the edge and I'll drop on the edge. Even if it's not right on their intersecting trail, the berry blend's gonna pull them to that spot. Then I'll broadcast some hand corn out to keep some of the smaller deer and doe and stuff satisfied while some of the more mature deer hit the blend pile. But I'll just take the corn and broadcast the corn. Poke in the bag. 10-pound kicker bag. Like I said, I want to hunt that tree. I'm gonna run a parallel line. We'll put a camera on it and get set. So we let it soak for a couple days. I'll be back in here in about 3 or 4 days to check, see what happens, see what shows up. And that's how I use J2 berry blend, and that's how I use attractants to optimize every shot opportunity I can get. I appreciate y'all following us. Stay tuned, keep watching us, see what happens throughout the year. Good luck, y'all.